Yeah, I like to say I interned initially with a funeral home briefly for a little on less than a year. Um, and then after I was finished there, I moved to where I am now. So I've been with this funeral home for a little over a year now. So about 2 years working as a good old apprentice. Um, I'm 38 years old, so I'm a little bit older than the usual apprentices, but
It's not
uh,
it's not that crazy at all. I mean, when I was in mortuary school, the it was a wide variety of ages for everyone there. So you had people that were barely out of high school, and then all the way up to you people in their late 40s and stuff. It's amazing how mortuary school is like. Is that how it is for your school now?
yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. I'd say when I was, you always have to take that apprentice like class just to get your foot in the door. And
Yeah.
everyone has a different experience with that, but I know mine was especially interesting too, at least to me, because it like just like you said, there was some guys in the back that had been working at a funeral home, just sort of like driving for them and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
but then we're like, oh well, I guess I better get my apprentice license because I got to do other stuff there. So there's like these guys that are pushing like 56 that are still and not, there's funeral directors that are that old, but just to
Oh
see
yeah.
people that are just getting into it that are doing that was just kind of,
They're
just
they're
something
having
else.
their careers are going out with a bang. Is what we
Exactly.
could say.
Yeah.
They're
And
having the
then
most challenging career at the end.
right, but then at the same time, like there's some girl sitting next to me and I have like a backpack or something, then I'm kind of got a little Arrested Development going on because it's got some sort of like comic thing I'm really into or whatever. And she's like,
Uh-huh.
I like your pen. And you just kind of have that moment because you're sitting there like, yeah, I'm 38. Like, it's like that never been kissed kind of thing going on.
Oh no.
Just weird, but no, it's good. I feel like I come in with a little bit of wisdom from a customer service and things like that, like stuff you just feel like you can't really learn unless you get down in the grid a little bit. So then
Right.
coming into this and always being fascinated and interested in that sort of stuff, and then just kind of works out, I guess.
Yeah,
So
so is that how you got into the field in the first place? Was it some you had that inkling, that interest before?
yeah, I'd say I was always interested in it,
So you're
but
a weirdo just like all of us.
for sure. It was definitely, yeah. I wish I could say it was something like a little more, the
Poignant.
gentle-hearted sort of. Yeah, there you go, poignant and gentle-hearted, and I mean, but I,
Sure.
right before I came across it, I was working at a treatment center with the elderly community, things like that. But I
Oh,
was working in the kitchen, so because I had
okay.
come from other, like I said, food service and things like that, and restaurant managed a hotel stuff. So
Yeah.
I got into that, and I actually just stumbled across an opportunity. Somebody was looking for that first funeral home I mentioned. We're looking for someone to kind of start interning and helping out with
Sure.
things like that. I use the word interning, but to be a little more I just use some lingo I don't have to say whether, like they were just kind of looking for somebody to help out. And then I
Yeah.
was like, wow, I've always been curious about that. So I started talking to the gal that posted it, and it kind of just went from there. And I got my foot in the door. I took the class, and before you knew it, it was like, well, here we go. Something I didn't think I'd ever get a chance to do. And
You're rocking and rolling then. Do you think that your first line of your career made an impact being in service? I feel like there's a lot of funeral directors that come from that route, whether it's hotel or restaurant, things like that. There's some interesting and weird correlations that happen, and
really,
I think everyone feels that a lot of times that you're sometimes a waiter or waitress or
yeah.
your hotel concierge some days on the phone, you know?
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, first of all, I'd like to meet more people. Like, I feel like this experience, unfortunately, when I'm stuck in school, and like I said, I have a
Yeah.
family, and I'm doing school online, should I say, and working full time because I do work full time as with this funeral home.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I get to meet a lot of people that share with me their prior experiences, like the guy that I refer to as my mentor, and
Uh-huh.
then my current boss now, that is kind of like my current walking mentor, if you will.
Sure.
Um, she was formerly in like healthcare. So I feel like I hear that a lot, like a lot of people that used to work in
Yes,
healthcare.
definitely.
Um, so the hospitality thing, not to go off on a tangent there, that's
No.
interesting. But um, yeah, I'd say it's definitely customer service because it just comes with being able to know that sometimes people are going to have really extreme reactions to things, and
Yes.
some that and
Yeah.
it makes sense to you, and then other times people, and I don't know if you agree, but sometimes it's actually more off-putting when they don't have the same reaction that you expect, and then you got to kind of work
Yeah.
around it. And I feel like it's a lot of times hospitality in that industry kind of trains you to just
Yeah.
realize like everyone is going to handle gains and losses and confusion and frustration differently.
Yeah,
So,
that's so very true. And I think that makes you just well equipped to handling that because I'm sure you've come through a lot of things or complaints or even on the positive side of things too. So you have to be able to handle that and be able to adapt at a moment's notice at any time. So I think hospitality overlaps a ton in that aspect too and makes you a little bit more prepared, especially from a service standpoint.
yeah. Yeah, adapting is a really good way of putting it for sure.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I
And
like, the outfits are kind of similar if you work in a banquet, right? Like if you worked a banquet or two, you got the white shirt and the black pants, like service time. So, for sure. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You have that classic funeral director outfit, and then that can apply to so many places in your life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, you'll never have to have an outfit for a funeral or a luncheon or probably a wedding ever
Yeah.
again. Being a funeral director.
Yeah, well, nowadays I don't think we get to the luncheons. I feel like you're kind of just passing the family off into the luncheon now. Once
Yeah,
in a while they're downstairs, but that's usually a little different. So, yeah,
sure, sure,
yeah.
absolutely. What do you think your favorite part about being in funeral services at the moment for you?
I really enjoy, and it's funny you asked me that. I feel like I've been asked that here and there. As you get more and more into it, people always want to know like what keeps you going.
Right, because you need something to keep you going.
Sure, and it's definitely making those human connections, but in my own, I guess, in my own personal introspective way, I really enjoy going out and meeting other people that are in the industry. Just
Yeah.
because, again, being new to this, but being a little bit older, I really enjoy like kind of just understanding what makes people tick, and what
Hmm.
kind of experience that they've gained so far in this, because
Yeah.
it means a lot to me to know what the old schoolers do, which is, that's not always the best way of doing things as we progress into the future, just like we learn
Yeah.
about everything else. But at the same time, it's also uh, important to me, just because there is
Yeah.
so many things that I just, you have to remember that we don't always take with us in modern days. So,
And it
um,
got us to where we are too.
right.
And sometimes that goes too far. People thinking that we got here because of what we did, but it's like yeah,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we can't keep pushing forward and try to progress with the times and to help more families. But I think there's a lot of power in learning from people that have been doing it for a long time because they do have a lot of things down. Meeting with families and a lot of things that you see behind the scenes in the prep room, like there is value to come from any person that's been in this line of service for an extended period of time, and it's good to learn from those people as
Right.
much as they a lot of our industry kind of gives uh a lot of the blame pointed at each other. The older
Right.
generation blames the younger, and the younger blames the older.
Very much
And
so. Yeah.
it's but I think there's a lot that can be made in that middle ground. A lot of improvement that can be made is somewhere in between, as we are, trying to get better. And I love what you said about making connections. This industry is way smaller than you would ever think, and
Yeah.
eventually everyone sort of knows everyone, which is hard,
Yeah.
especially in your local community. So
Yep.
making those connections and uh, that sort of thing is a good philosophy when you're getting going too.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's just, I would have never have assumed that I would get, especially like doing this stuff online and talking to you
Yeah.
on here and then talking with Elaine from Funeral Boss previously. It's just, like you said,
Oh,
it's
you
it's a
have?
small world. Yeah, it's a small world, yet it's a big world, and just something else, and you mentioned like the old schoolers with the families. There's just it's that, and it's just they remember a lot of the little things about this that I feel like,
Yeah.
we improve upon it, but at the same time, it's just it's definitely it's got layers, I guess, if you will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, and it's an industry that was built over time, and it's one that, has been able to maintain that small business focus, and people wanna hold on to that, and I get that, and I appreciate that too because I come from a small business, and, it it's an honor to be like that, and we want to preserve that. So it's finding a way to be able to do that and to be able to give our personal touch to families, but at the same time grow all together as a collective industry. So that way the public knows, hey, these funeral directors, they're doing something right. That's making that
Yeah.
impact that they want to see, because you don't see a lot of those things, a lot of the resistance in other fields to what we do or what we charge. That's usually like the biggest thing that
Yeah.
people have issue with, but they won't
Right.
they won't feel bad about weddings, or they won't feel bad about your prescriptions or your medical bills, and people
Right.
won't even question it. But for whatever reason, funeral service professionals get questioned to no end about those sort of things. And I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's a bad thing. I think it's good. I think that should go for all industries because the public is so informed in every aspect of life now. So that's good. But I think it's the perception that we're trying to improve. So that's my long way of saying we need to take our balance from a collective whole and then keep it that small personal touch to make the biggest impact.
Yeah,
You know?
that's an excellent way of putting it. And it's just that balance between, it's not like the creepy Dracula guy upstairs living upstairs, because I know that still
Yeah.
happens, especially in these local funeral homes. Like, there's people living upstairs in the funeral home that's still operating, you know,
Yes. They
and
come down in their pajamas every night
right.
and make sure the
But at the
bodies haven't moved.
but at the same time, as I'm sure you understand, the weird transition between some of the the community that is unfortunately passing away, that doesn't realize, when you're making pre-needs and appointments, that the person that answers the phone isn't always going to be the person that lives there. It's going to
Right,
be the ASD service,
right.
and understanding that it's perfectly okay to use ASD. That's just kind of but it's
Yeah.
off-putting. It could be that whole helping people understand that that's just another part of moving into the future. But I mean, I
Yeah.
guess they catch on with everything else, like you said, with prescriptions. That's all these automated things we talk to on the phone. but
Oh, yeah.
but just to maintain, again, the integrity between that. Just because you have to talk to that doesn't mean that you're not going to get me showing up to come and
The
help you
best
with what
service.
needs to be done.
Yes.
So, and
Yeah, that's where there's a little bit of a disconnect, and we
right.
try to help them along. In I think it's because people are so used to funeral directors bending over backwards for generations, and not that we don't now, but we're trying to find a balance where we don't drive ourselves crazy on a
Right.
day-to-day basis trying to do a million things, because that's what the need is for a
Yeah.
million things to be done. So it's imperative that we lean on each other or lean on different businesses that are in our own industry, just to make ourselves better so we can best serve the families. But
Right.
people don't really want to hear that
Well,
sometimes. So
right,
that's
yeah.
hard.
And you don't always want to think that, the person that is you want, it's like a lawyer or really a doctor or anything else, not to inflate that, but just that
No,
you don't want to think about the person that's taking care of the most, what could be the most like difficult part of
of
your
your life.
life, also
Yeah.
has a child at home or anything else. Because it's just, you know that's a wonderful thing, but at the same time, to what you're saying, like, you don't want that to become people worrying that because a person has a family or other obligations, that they won't be able to adequately serve your needs. So,
Yeah.
and you get more women in this service and everything
Yeah.
else, and that's probably been one of those things that, like, it's hard to really talk about, to just say,
Yeah.
like, I want you to take me seriously, not just because of, women and feminism and things, but also just because it's just because I have children, or we have the so and so does or doesn't. It's like that's not going to make me, less reliable, if you
No,
will,
of course not.
but
I think it's helped immensely. People knowing that it was only men being funeral directors, like, you're not going to give me any any empathy. Like,
oh, right.
I think it's helped in that respect, and people understand that anyone can do it, and that's a good thing. And
Right.
I think that's all for the best that we're able to do that, so we can best attend to our families. And it's helped us grow, I think, especially in the last 5 to 7 years. There's been a ton of changes, and that's
Yeah.
going to only continue, and that's all for the better, is end of the day. And I think what women have done in funeral services is making a huge, profound impact, especially with the families that are seeing the result on the other end of things. So I
Right.
think it's gonna catch up, as far as the overall, maybe sometimes negative perception is going to catch up, and everyone's going to understand, like, these are people that are doing good
Right.
for us.
Right. Or just, yeah, the misguided perception that, yeah, because I can be well rounded and down to earth, if you will, enough to understand that, that people just worry about how anyone is doing business. So I get it. And although you don't want to
Yeah.
look at it that way, but I mean, business is business, and
Yeah.
right. So
Yeah, absolutely. It sure is.
yeah.
Well, what are some of the your favorite things that you've gotten to do in this line of work, or maybe it's something that you've had to deal with that makes you question, or something that you like to tell your friends and family that you see on a day-to-day basis that maybe is a little bit different or
Yeah.
a little unique.
Yeah. Well, again, I think my favorite thing is probably when I make my way around town, and not to say you enjoy the things that happen that cause you to have to go around town, if you know
Right.
what I mean. But it's you just learn a lot about the state you live in, honestly. Like, I've traveled more around Wisconsin in the brief amount of time that I've been in funeral service than
Yeah.
I have in my entire life. So just going
You're
to all
so
these
well
different,
traveled now.
right, and going to these corners, and in this van, you have it in your mind you're going to be driving this hearse everywhere,
This
but that's not
luxury
what it
hearse.
is. it's
No.
it's it's the big old Pacifica, or whatever. So I just I the coroner's offices are always fascinating. Some are a little grittier than others, and
There's no
just
doubt.
meeting the people that work there, and just, again, other funeral homes, and how some of them are. I remember I went on the north side of Milwaukee and met this funeral director that had been doing it for just years upon years.
Yeah.
So super uh well versed guy, if you
Yeah.
will. He was a friend of my original mentor, as I always say. So
Nice.
it was really nice to meet him, but just the super classic big old Jesus, like, reflecting in the corner, which is fine, but I'm just saying, like, just the funeral home
Of
itself is,
course.
it's like a time capsule,
Yeah,
and it's just so fun to
absolutely.
I love seeing that. And then at the other end, there's these ones that are a little more on the corporate side that are just real tight, and just new artwork around, but always kind of just the same sort of artwork. So you don't get that far away from hotel, because it's like, oh, I could see that. You could play a game with that. It's like, does that go in a funeral home or in a hotel? It's like the art,
Yeah,
like,
for the newer, yeah. It's fun to try to balance between the two. That's what we tried to do, but I think when we made reservations, we renovations, reservations. It's
see it? Yeah,
it's
it all
about
just
dinner
works
time
out.
here in Chicago, so you
Yeah.
know what's on my mind. Anyway, when we made renovations, we wanted that fresh, that clean look,
Sure.
because ours was in rough shape. It hadn't been touched since maybe the 70s, and it needed that overhaul badly. So we did everything. We
So,
did.
like a lot of things in Chicago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no kidding, no kidding. Watch it now,
I
Wisconsinite.
know. I had to
Um,
throw one in there. If I don't
I
get one in
know, I
there, it
know.
won't be proper. Yeah.
You had to.
Yeah.
It's only natural for someone from Wisconsin to hate a Illini. It's okay. Anywho, talking real Midwest now with my anywho's.
And use and
But
oops. Yeah.
um, so we did all the floors, like replaced the carpet that was in the hallways and everywhere. And we did more of that laminate wood style in the halls, and then carpet tiles in the chapel so we could replace them. And new furniture, we try to reupholster some to, but make it look nice and fresh. And we ended up going that route of, I was like, man, maybe we should have like kept a little bit of our uniqueness and heritage a little bit. So we kind of went back to that, and we took out some old pictures and frames and things, and made it about who we are as a firm. And I think that's the best way to make renovations, is keep it true to who your brand, what your brand is. So depending on where you are, like we're a big time Irish Catholic brand funeral home. Not that we don't serve everyone, of course we do, but that's who we serve. So
Sure.
we double
Yeah.
down on that, and we say, we show all that, and like my great grandfather come from Ireland and starting a funeral home, things like that. But I think there's you got to find that balance where you want it to look clean and crisp, and you don't want it to look like there could be cobwebs maybe like up in the
Right.
rafters. So
Yeah. Yeah. But
it's
at the
good to
same
find a balance.
time, I think sometimes that some of the people that come in there are comforted by that in some ways, because that's
Yeah,
what they remember coming,
right.
the years. Because I'm sure you see people too that come in and they're like, I was here, I
What
haven't been
happened
here in a
here?
while. Yeah. I was here 2 years. I don't really want to be here. And then you got to do yeah, I know, right? And
Yeah, sorry, we're
like,
trying to make it look nice for you. Yeah.
so, so,
So mean
but
of us.
it's so
Yeah.
funny you might mention Irish Catholic. That's pretty much exactly, yeah, I'm sure it's probably a very Midwest thing in general, but that's
Yeah.
very similar to where I work as well. So,
Hmm.
and I was going to say too, that's interesting that I've learned more about the Catholic, just the different ways of doing all the rites, and the way
Oh
that you
yeah.
do Catholic funerals. And that's been a pretty fascinating experience in itself, whether you're religious or spiritual or not. It's
Oh
just
yeah.
super interesting to learn everything that goes into that.
Yeah,
So,
tell me about that experience, because it is very specific. Like if anyone, most funeral directors, if you've ever done a Catholic service, it is very,
yeah,
every step of the way there is a thing that has to happen, and it's less like some other religions where it's a
yeah,
little more up for
loose.
interpretation, like the
Yeah,
Catholic, especially like the funeral mass and everything. It's, you have to be on your toes, and you have to do things the right way, because your role there is very sacred. And on the other end, you're putting on a little bit of a performance sometimes, because you're the center stage for several different aspects. What
right,
was it like learning all that for you, and what are some of those things that still give you the shakes?
right. Yeah, it definitely was. It's just, it definitely makes you feel like you're going backwards in age a little bit. Just you're stepping into the position of, like you said, putting on a little bit of a performance. And
Yeah,
very nerve wracking at first, because
sure.
God forbid, well, one, anytime you're doing a service, you want to look like you're doing the family justice, but at the same
Hmm.
time, you're not in your house, as we put it. We're in someone else's house, so
Correct.
you're there to do what the family would
You're in
like, and
God's
what,
house, baby.
right. That makes you feel, like, that makes the family feel like you're connected to you're doing their loved one justice.
Yes,
I think learning to fold the pall was like
I knew
interesting,
it.
and
I
I feel
knew
like I got a rhythm with it now. I feel pretty good about it, but
it.
at first that was, and I think it is, maybe you can concur. I think it comes with the priest, and who you're working with too, because some of them are real stiff about everything they do, and other
Yep.
ones are a little bit like, yeah, we get it. People are
Yep.
coming and going in this profession just like we are now, so they're a
Right.
little more understanding. So
It
it
does
just,
vary. It varies on the priest a lot,
yeah,
and probably your other funeral director. Like if you have an old school one, they're going to have a very specific way. Like I
for sure.
know when I go on a funeral with my dad, I am the one that is leading us in and
Hmm.
leading us out. I'm never the one pushing. I'm always the one in front holding. And then when we're folding the pall, I'm always grabbing with my left hand, and like it's all
Right.
orchestrated exactly how it needs to be.
Hmm.
But that's something that if you're doing those type of services, and it doesn't matter if it's Catholic or anything else, it's good to practice that stuff at the funeral home prior to, so
Oh,
you
for
know
sure.
when you're going into it, you don't crumble under the pressure, because there is
Yeah,
pressure, like doing all that stuff, or saying prayers at an end of service, or
it is.
any
Yeah.
sort of announcement and things like that. It takes practice. That's a whole big part of our job. We do so many jobs, and public speaking and
Hmm.
acting are some of the some of the
Right.
100.
Right. Just knowing when to step up there. You go from being a person in the background to being the one that wants to
Yeah,
guide. And that was always a funny transition between being the director and then being, knowing when to kind of step back and that's their moment to be
yeah.
alone. And
It's a great point. It's pretty much never in the middle. It's either you're being the center of attention or you're a fly on the wall and you're not even there.
yeah.
And you go back and forth between those two, because you want the families to know that you're there for them, but you don't want to be intrusive. So you step away and make sure that they have their time with their family, their friends. There's no kind of middle ground on that. It's one or the other, and it happens at different times, and you have to know, okay, this is my time to step up to the plate and
Hmm.
take some action, or this is my time to step back and let the family do their thing right here.
For sure. And as far as shakes go, I'd say probably doing the gifts, like bringing forward the
Sure.
communion table,
Yeah.
and the ushering process, because it's pretty self-explanatory. But at the same time, again, with certain priests, sometimes they're on one side or the other, and then sometimes they're kind of just in the middle, and you know what side you always go to first to usher. But
Yes.
at the same time, it just doesn't always work that way. Sometimes they have them go around the outside and come up, and you're just like, okay, just kind
Yep.
of try to throw it together. And but thankfully, during those times of like movement within the church, it doesn't, it feels like there's a little more, all eyes aren't so fixated on you like they can
That's
be.
true.
So,
That's true. And the overall structure is the same for every mass, so you get an idea of when it's time to go up there. Like
right.
when communion is finishing up, we know, okay, we go back, we come up the sides. And those funeral directors, they're everyone else is like, oh, where did they come from? They weren't
Right.
they weren't standing up here the whole time. They were probably in the back, like just
And
like
just
we
kind of
always are,
appear. Yeah. Just
But then you
rise out of the
speak up, and
floor.
it's like,
Yeah.
oh, and then here comes the incense. It's like, oh, it must be go time. Funeral directors are coming up, the incense coming
Yeah,
out.
man, it
It
is.
must
It's
be
like,
time for the cemetery.
right, exactly. It is. It's very much like that. Now, when you talk about what makes me nervous, I'd say probably military honors. That one really gets me. If you want to go a whole other direction,
No, I
because
would love to. What
those
makes you so
guys can
nervous?
be all over the
No, I
place.
love that. What makes why is that the most nerve wracking for you?
I think it's just because there's many different branches of military, so
Okay,
you never know if you're going to get the Navy or the. I mean, from the arrangement folder, but I mean, it's always usually like the same few guys are going to do the shots, and but then depending on what branch it is, and you got the flag folding and everything. uh it's just sometimes they're a little older, a little younger. You gotta sometimes they're kind of chatting in the back when you have the family in another room, and you gotta
sure,
kind of make sure you have everybody in their places so nobody's kind of disturbing one another. And they're
right,
great. They're always great. Like it's
absolutely,
fun how you start recognizing the same people
yeah.
showing up to do those sort of things, different personalities. And I think
Hmm.
it's cool, like the gunpowder and families are always so moved by that, and when
Absolutely,
the handing the flag, and
it's a
it's a moment to
guaranteed
be
tear
part of.
jerker.
Absolutely. So it's always a powerful moment to be part of that and makes me feel
Yeah.
special. So,
It is. It is
but
super powerful. You don't know really what you're gonna get when they come out,
yeah,
sometimes. And the nerve-wracking part is like, I wanna make they're coming, right? They're
yeah,
always early. They're always early. Don't get me wrong
yes,
on that. But it's like you're not getting multiple confirmations, or like you would maybe with some other things that you're ordering, or
no,
it's
not like
not
the
as
church.
frequent. So
Yeah,
you don't have that, like, oh, I know my florist, I guarantee they're gonna come with the sprays.
yeah.
There's no doubt. The military honors, like, they're please,
Yes, I
you order
really hope
military,
they're
right? It's
here.
like
Yeah,
everyone talks
sometimes.
about it, like, you got military honors, right? Right, right.
Yeah, yep, you're right. You're absolutely right. There are always directors making sure that someone got that, and did you make sure the secretary left a message about it. And I think making room, that sounds kind of silly, but depending on the size of, especially when we have it at the funeral home,
Okay.
it's like you want to make sure those flowers are pushed back because these guys are going to do that flag folding. You got like that tight little area, and I'm just always terrified we're going to knock over a plant or a photo board or whatever it's going to be. So,
Oh, they could
but
probably
yeah,
do it in a 2 foot by 2 foot room,
yeah.
and they just to
Well,
figure it
and their
out.
face doesn't change, so that's the thing. So you got to maintain like the fact that they're keeping their composure, and you're just like,
I guess I
you know,
must.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's a very fair point.
yeah.
What how is it being a mom, apprentice, being in school? How do you balance all those things? That's got to be so hard.
Well, it's whenever people say that, it's always kind of like it's a weird feeling because I feel like whether no matter what job I've ever had in life, I've been balancing those things, you know.
Yeah,
Um, I love my kids. My kids are, but I have a 14-year-old and a 7-year-old, so it's a pretty wide range.
yeah,
They're not in diapers though, which makes things a little bit easier, you know.
yeah,
Um, I'm thankful that I and very lucky, and blessed, I guess. I have help, you know, and my husband's a very helpful man. He takes care of what needs to be done, and when I'm not there, and um, I
yeah.
think
That's
it's
nice.
more. I outsource myself mostly, like when I'm not at work, to the ones around me. So I think overall, and not to sound like it's about me, but I think it's trying to remember to do something for myself, whether it
Yeah,
be getting sleep or just seeing my friends. Like I feel like, you know, I don't really see my own personal friends and things like that, but it's just I keep telling myself when I get school kind of out of the way there, then things will open up a little bit more. So
yeah. You got to make a conscious effort for that stuff, and a hard thing to do as a funeral director, uh, to make the effort to be with your friends or with your family, have some alone time or some time for you, whatever that means, whether it's just sitting back or taking a bath
yeah,
or exercising or
right,
doing another hobby, like trying to find that balance and be like, I need this stuff or I need time with my friends, is it's not an easy thing to do, but it has to be a priority so you don't start resenting your day-to-day work. Like for me, I'm always like, I love traveling, and I was like, I'm not gonna, I know funeral directors that you're gonna, everyone gets pissed when I say that, and I, because like I like to travel a lot, and I'm very fortunate that I get to do it, and it's because I spend my free time, like anytime I can possibly get, I'm like, I'm gonna go and travel so I can experience, like I love like
right.
having the experience of more, but that's different for everyone. So making that whatever it is for you, having that be a priority and a non-negotiable, is super important.
Yeah, I it's that's really it. It's whenever I, you know, again, this being my second interview, I've kind of sat down and talked to somebody. It's to sit and try to, you know, I kind of psych myself out a little bit before this, thinking like I don't really ever know what to offer up when people ask me like, okay, what is it like doing this?
Yeah,
Because you know what you're thinking and other people are thinking when it comes to this industry and all the things we know
let it
underneath.
flow,
But
you know.
what am I really what am I going to talk about that's good for public discussion?
No,
And-
that's what we want. Like we're all funeral directors. Like we like
right.
to get into the nastiness and the
Sure.
tough side, and there's a beautiful side and all that stuff. And it's just
Yeah.
part of what our job is. Do you do any prep room side of things, or are you mostly
Yeah.
with the families? How do you like
Yeah.
that? What's the nastiest thing you've ever seen?
Well, I will when this is all said and done and I get my almighty license, it will be a dual license. So I will be dual licensed as a embalmer
It's so
director.
Wisconsin that you have to get two licenses.
It is. So and isn't that funny? I think it's like in the UK you don't even need like a certain it's totally different. Like
It's different
yeah,
every state and every country, and
it's wild. It's
it's a
wild.
nuisance.
I
Yeah.
will say that Wisconsin, I feel like is they really just they I feel like they really pull the collar on you a little bit. Like
Yeah.
I get it, but at the same time, you know, the need is strong, and you got to think that some people just pull out after a while just because of just how time consuming
Oh, yeah.
getting there is, like with the schooling and everything. I mean,
Yep.
but anyway, the prep room. Well, I'll say the
Don't
most
be shy now.
interesting,
Don't be
the most
shy.
no,
I'm
the
just
most
another mortician.
interesting
I live
thing.
in the prep room. Come on.
I had to keep this one. I had to give this one. I'd have to say, the first job I had when I was doing my introduction into the world of
Uh-huh.
funeral directing. I'd spent a lot more time in a crematory,
Okay.
which it sounds weird, but I actually kind of miss it. With my current position, I do a lot more burials and traditionals.
Okay.
So previously was really heavy on the crematory, but
It's a love-hate in there.
yeah, it's just sometimes it's just your little haven, as weird as that sounds, but
That's what I think about the prep room
yeah, so and I
sometimes.
work with a few
Sometimes.
people that feel that way too, right?
Sometimes.
So I have to say one of the weirdest slash grossest, just bizarre, was probably this there was unfortunately this lady, she lost her boyfriend. Now they're older. When I say boyfriend, I just want to make sure you
Okay.
understand
Okay.
there were adults, fully
Okay.
grown adults. Um
Got it.
and
Check.
he had the grill plate on his teeth. Like he had the metal plating,
Sure.
the gold plating as
Yeah.
they claimed it was, right? Well,
Grillz.
right, exactly. So you're familiar with how the crematory works when a body is the process happens,
Out
and
comes
there's
the grill.
metal left behind. You can some places, I don't know, it's kind of like this weird mystery thing underneath. Some places talk about it with other people, some people don't. I know that
Right.
that place would make sure the family knew that if they wanted the metal, like let's say there was a metal rod in their legs, their arm, whatever it might be, you have screws that you had your hips replaced, whatever, you can
Oh.
actually ask for that metal back. Like people what are they going to do with it? I have no idea, but you can do that. Well, this
Oh.
gal, she wanted his grills back. She wanted that plate off his teeth. So when my coworker, who was at the time I believe was my manager, when he entered the room to do the removal, she was there trying to remove them
Oh my
from
God.
him. Yes. And I mean
Oh.
he's gone, so it's just, and that's her loved one, so whatever, whatever, that's between you and him. But
Oh.
long story short, they still wanted that back, and yeah, so they did get it back, let's put it that way, before the process. I'm going to go ahead and say that I'm pretty sure that wasn't gold, but that's what happened.
So
Yeah.
maybe they did have to get it out before, like, there is a 50-50 shot if this thing's melting in here. I think we got to get
Yeah,
it out.
I want it off. I want it off his teeth. I want it back. It's mine. I want that gold.
Oh, that's so funny. It's so funny.
Welcome
Absolutely.
to the Midwest.
Absolutely fantastic. Sam, it's been great
So,
getting to talk to you. What a fun episode. And hopefully you keep it rocking and rolling with your apprenticeship and school and being a mom and having
well, I
fun.
appreciate that.
And then it'll all calm down and it's going to be easy.
Okay, yeah, I hope so. I hope so. It was so nice talking to you. I mean, and my coworkers are gonna be like, I got to do it with that guy, the one guy that climbed in the casket on the episode. We were all laughing and giggling at him because he's just so cute and entertaining. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, yeah. Sure, sure, sure. That's a mortuary show.
So,
We're not going further into that.
all right.